been asking, I've gotten quite a few requests wondering what is going on with the 562. If you've been watching the channel, you might know that my 562 is relatively new. I've got about 1.5 hours on it. I'd say about 4 tanks through it, less than 5. I love the saw, how it feels and everything, but I have had some running issues. And I went ahead and took it to the dealer. And what they did is they flashed it, basically did a software update, didn't look any further. I understand I understand that in a sense, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to tell, right? I don't have a lot of confidence that it's resolved yet. So once the saw was flashed, I did go ahead and start it up, heat cycled it, restarted, stopped. Didn't seem like it was running poorly. However, I also didn't have an opportunity to get it into any wood. Now, what I didn't get on video before was that this saw, last time I had tried to run it after it had given me some fits, I had idled it. And what happened is it died idling, and then I could not get it to run really again. So it went from running poorly out in the field to a few days later, pull starting it, running it a little bit, noodling some pine, and then idling it, literally going and getting my chaps on, coming back, and the saw would not restart. So this will be interesting to see how it starts up. Let's see how this baby starts. Not fast idle or anything. Let's see what happens. That's awesome. That started good. Alrighty, so noodling up. This is some pretty dry white oak here. See how much fuel. We may have burned up about 1/3 of a tank, maybe. I'm gonna let this kind of heat soak for a second here. I'm gonna grab my 545. We're gonna start that. I'm actually gonna cut up. I just want to feel the difference between this and that with a 20-inch bar. See what happens. I find this kind of interesting. I felt like maybe I heard a couple hiccups during that running. A couple thoughts. Curious to know what you guys think. Can a software update fix a saw? And where I'm coming from is this, is first of all, how could a tune how could the software be sent out on a saw, or the firmware, whatever you want to refer to it as, how could it be sent out and have it not generally operate correctly? What my mind is thinking is the software now better to tune around some sort of issue? That's where my mind is thinking. Saw's running really, really well. Like I think I heard a couple like laggy pickups, but like just pops of the trigger. But also I was just running this saw, basically just long ripping cuts. And so, you know, it had tuned up, not for a snappy throttle response, but probably for being dug in to the wood. Undoubtedly, I'm probably going to get some comments about sharpen your chain, sharpen your chain. Well, I just hand filed that. Sometimes I hand filed that semi-chisel too. That semi-chisel was pulling way better noodles than this saw was. So I don't know if it's because that saw had like a little less RPM and it was able to pull a strip out, and this was just tearing through it so fast. I will say this, when both saws went in and plugged in the common service tool at the dealership, that saw did not have very many hours on it. I want to say it had like 20 something hours, so it's not very many hours. And it showed like the maximum RPM it had run was like a little under 14,000. This 562 said it did hit a little over 14,000 according to the records built in. A lot of people think that when you plug in the saw is going to tell the dealership what it was doing and all that. I saw the screen he was looking at. It told me how many times the saw had been pulled over, how many hours were on it, and if I remember right, it was like 1.47 hours or something like that. I had started it like 20 times, somewhere around there, and it checked out. Basically, they ran the little auto test on it, and you know, it checks the solenoid, it makes sure that it can see the temperature, and it checks your throttle position. All those things checked out great. So essentially, to a person that doesn't have a background in repairing something, you would think, oh, it's good. Well, there's more to it than that, inevitably. What I was left with was, let's update it. And I'm okay with this, everyone. Let's update it, go run it and see what it does. And because you have that now software variable, right? That potential for the firmware to not be right, or some combination of parts and software, maybe a revision of a coil, carburetor, who knows, right? Because you know, a saw that's made at the beginning of the year isn't necessarily the same saw that's made at the end of the year. So again, there's a lot of variables here, and that's what's kind of cool about potentially being able to just tune that carburetor yourself. But I'm gonna give this a fair shot. Am I impressed that I had to do this? No, definitely not. Am I ready to jump ship on Husqvarna? Absolutely not. Now, this is the deal. If this saw continues to be a problem, and right now it's not seeming like it's going to be a problem. Let me see if this thing will start. I'm not going to fast idle this. I'm just going to pull it. Oh, I will pump it because a Fleet Command did say get some cooler fuel into it. So let's see what happens here. I got about a half tank in here, it looks like. I didn't want to take it. Let's see if I do a fast idle and start. I did sit there a little bit of time. Let's see what happens. interesting. Let's see what happens again. I didn't hit anything. Let me make sure the camera's recording here. Yo, that's a pretty rough idle. Now, I get it. I could have to do the factory field, the field reset. I get that. Let's see what happens here. I'm gonna fast idle this. Uh-oh. Let's see what happens here. I have a feeling this is gonna be a hard start. Let's see. Look at this. Y'all, man. Okay, this is reminding me of last time. Guys, just so you all know I'm not a fool, here's my 545. I ran it. It's been sitting for a little bit. I don't know if it's gonna warm start or not. Let's see what happens. One pull. Guys, I think that this 562 is not sorted out. I think that there's something wrong with it. I'm gonna pump this up. I've got fuel in it. We're, third of the way, halfway, or whatever, quarter of the way. Should have enough to run, right? Saws will suck themselves dry. I think there's something not right, y'all. 545, let's try it again. Man, I was thinking it was good. I was gonna give it the benefit of the doubt. Oh man. I'm confident I could set this saw down and it would idle through an entire tank of fuel. Y'all, I wouldn't know how to make this up if I could. I mean, honestly, I don't really know. I don't know what could be happening. Maybe it's some sort of kink in the fuel line. This is the deal, guys. I have 850, probably about $1,000 into this thing. I don't really want to start working on it, and also I don't want to put questions from the dealership or Husqvarna too. If I've started tearing into it or working on it, I don't want to have anybody be able to say, Okie Woodsman doesn't know what he's doing. So I'm not going to do it. This is going to go revisit the dealership. I have to do it because that's not acceptable. Let's see what happens here. Y'all, that's not right. That's not fast idle. That was just regular idle. It's not there. It won't run again. Basically, once this thing gets hot, somebody mentioned that they thought it might be some sort of coil issue. And that kind of makes sense for like a solid state electronics type issue, as maybe once that coil gets hot, Maybe it's maybe there's a fault in it. I doubt it's the carburetor. From my knowledge, potentially, of course, there could be like an air leak type issue or something, but I feel like this is temperature related, because I can get this saw, once it's cold, it'll start up, no problem at all. It's hot right now. Once it's cool, it starts easily, but as it gets hot, it becomes progressively worse. This is real time. I seriously was thinking I was going to be able to do more testing between the two saws, but not now. Guys, I couldn't even do a field reset if I wanted to, because I can't get it running long enough. Yeah. So basically, that's the end of this right here, right? I'm not frustrated. I kind of didn't think that the software update would just take care of it. Now, what I am frustrated about is that dealership, I go to it on my way to work, but that's 40 minutes away, okay? It is 40 minutes from here. So I've driven there. You know, I went into the dealership, talked to him, ordered it, drove home. Went and picked it up, drove home. Drove there, do a software update on both saws. 545 is running great like it always used to. I don't think the software did anything good or negative. This here, I've now brought it home. Glad I'm not doing a job. This is what I wanted to do, is just get out here and get it hot and see what would happen. And now it's doing this. So thankfully, again, I didn't drive somewhere and go and expect to do any real work. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take this into the dealership. I'm gonna see if I can drop this saw off tomorrow. My expectation is this: the dealership said that what they would do is, if there is a continuation of problems, they would go ahead and do a leak down test. They would check and see, clog the exhaust, clog the intake, pressurize it, and see if it has an air leak. What I don't want to have happen is this. From a technical standpoint, what I don't want them to do is go and replace a whole bunch of parts, and then the saw comes back and it works. Some people might actually want to have, like, they just want a saw that works, right? Well, I'm the kind of person, I want to know what's wrong with it, right? And I think it would behoove Husqvarna to know what's wrong too. So this is where a good technician comes in. Now, of course, they don't have just spare parts to just swap out, to try one thing at a time. So there's a little bit of time constraint there. Of course, I want my saw to work correctly, but at the same time, I would like to know what's actually wrong with it. Is it an air leak? Or let's say hypothetically they do that test and there's no air leak on it, okay? They're going to basically start at that point. They're probably going to start swapping parts, from what I know and from what I've seen people do in all fields, right? They just start replacing things, hoping that it's like that shotgun effect, like hopefully it works. Well, I don't want $500 worth of new parts on here necessarily. If they were going to do that, I'd rather just have them swap me a saw, rather than take it that far apart and just replace stuff. I want to know, like I said, I want to know what's wrong. Everyone, let me know what you think. Am I thinking right? Guys, keep in mind, I am not a professional. I don't need to produce this firewood to feed my family. It's warm now. I don't need firewood for my house. It's here, and it's fun for me to make this content. So try to separate yourself from, if you're a professional faller, professional chainsaw guy. This is a hobby for me. Professional firewood or whatever. Now, at the same time, does this look good for someone that wanted to buy this saw to go do work? No, it doesn't. And there's a lot of people that absolutely found me because I have that Echo, that CS620. that saw gets a lot of accolades. People really like those Echoes. Guys, if these saws both were problem free, I would probably prefer to run this, but right now, which one do I trust? I trust that Echo CS620 completely. It is never not started. I've had it maybe a warm start, you know, I've had it on video where I pull it once, it doesn't start, it kind of stumbles, and then I pull it again and it starts right up. I've always been able to run that saw when I want to run that saw. So, I don't know how I'm gonna make this video. I don't know how I'm gonna edit this. It'll be really interesting. Let's try to start one more time here. Fast idle. I'm gonna just choke it. Let's see what happens. Nothing at all. It's like dead. Guys, I didn't hit the switch. Okay. Anyway, I'm done. That's when some guys just stinking throw it. I'm not gonna. I mean, I'm a little frustrated, but thankfully it's not 100 degrees out here. Thank you guys for watching the channel. Trying to improve some things. This is a new camera, or it's a new phone, I should say. I was shooting on a Galaxy S10 Plus before. This is an iPhone 14 Pro. I'm trying to increase the quality of my content. I'm trying to get better at editing. My computer's kind of my bottleneck right now. I've got a 2019 MacBook Pro. It was a base model MacBook Pro back in the day. It struggles a bit editing 4K. 1080 is no problem at all. But when I'm doing 4K, besides just cutting and putting clips together, that's easy. But as soon as I try to do anything, put words in there, color correct, anything, it is like So hopefully in the future, a computer will be an option for the channel. We're growing. I just hit 2,700 subscribers today. Thank you, everybody. Just thank you so much. It's incredible. If you haven't watched my rigid video, please go ahead and watch that. I know that this is it's similar, but it's entirely different. I don't have an agenda for an electric saw, but I will tell you this. My wife has picked up that saw repeatedly. She's cut numerous little small snag trees, little small dead trees out that I would have had to have done, but she just did it. It's not because that she can't start my Echo CS310, it's that she just flat out doesn't want to. Okay, she can do it. She's fully capable of doing it. But I think with her, some of it has to do with the noise, right? She knows it can hurt her. She knows that the electric saw can hurt her. She knows these can hurt her. But she just likes running the other one more. She doesn't want it to just come to life and growl, right? That's just, I'm just thinking the way my wife might think. So check that video out. That saw is pretty neat. I could definitely use some love on that video, comments, thumbs up, just shares, anything. If it not for you necessarily, but for someone that you've been thinking about. Like for example, the gentleman that won my giveaway saw, the little handheld guy. He's gonna try it out. Aaron, thank you, sir. I appreciate you. He's gonna try it out, and then it's going to his aunt. That's not for him. That's for his aunt. And there's totally a purpose for it. So again, I thank you guys. Thank you for watching. Help support us. I'm dependent upon you guys, and I appreciate the friendships and the comments and the information that has been that's happened on the channel. It's just mind-blowing to me. Have a good one. Man, now I've got a 562 that I've got to figure out.